They thought the wolf's bane would keep her hidden forever. They thought Seraphina was broken, scentless, forgotten. But they were wrong. AlphaKing Kale wasn't searching for a perfect mate. He was hunting the ghost he'd scented once 5 winters ago, a trace of moonlight under poison, a whisper of something ancient wrapped in bitter herbs. Every winter he rode into the borderlands alone. Every winter he found nothing but empty cabins and abandoned teacups reeking of toxins. Until the night of this winter solstice, the night her body betrayed every defense she'd built. The night the heat struck without warning, tearing through 5 years of carefully maintained numbness like wildfire through dead wood. Seraphina ran into the frozen forest praying the cold would hide what the poison no longer could. Instead, she stumbled into his private hunting lodge. And when Kale walked through that door, snow melting in his dark braided hair, his golden eyes locked onto hers with recognition that made her wolf whimper after years of silence. This is the story of how a poisoned Omega became the most feared queen in history. This is the story of surrender. The first memory Seraphina had of true fear was the smell of incense mixed with blood. She was 16, too young to understand the politics of pack alliances. Old enough to understand what the screaming meant. The ceremonial hall was ancient stone pillars carved with moon phases that had watched 1,000 matings. Candles burned in iron sconces, casting shadows that danced like demons on the walls. The air tasted of smoke and something sweeter. Jasmine, maybe, or fear dressed up as celebration. Seraphina pressed herself against a cracked pillar near the back, fingers clamped over her mouth to silence her breathing. She shouldn't have been there. Young Omegas weren't permitted to witness the ceremonies until their first heat. But curiosity, that dangerous trait her mother always scolded her for, had drawn her down the forbidden corridor. Now she wished she'd stayed ignorant. On the raised platform at the hall's center, an Omega knelt. Cassandra, 23, kind-faced, with gentle hands that had once braided Seraphina's hair. Her wrists were shackled to iron rings embedded in the stone, her ankles too. The metal gleamed in the candlelight, polished from years of use. Her scent was everywhere, sweet vanilla and desperate honey thick enough to choke on. It clung to the wooden beams, saturated the air, made Seraphina's eyes water. Heat scent, unmistakable, overwhelming. Around the platform, alphas circled, not all of them, just the unmated ones. 7 males, eyes bright with hunger, bodies tense with restraint that looked painful. They moved like wolves around a dying deer, slow, deliberate, savoring the anticipation. The pack's elders sat in high-backed chairs along the wall, hands folded, faces serene, witnessing, blessing. Elder Thane stood at the platform's edge, voice resonant as he addressed the gathered crowd of maybe 80 pack members. "The moon has blessed Cassandra with her fertile time," he announced. "She has been chosen for Alpha Matthias of the Northern Ridge Pack. This union will strengthen our alliance, secure our borders, and bring prosperity to both bloodlines." Cassandra sobbed. The sound was small, broken, a hoarse plea that barely carried past the first row of witnesses. "No," she whispered. "Please, I don't want." No one acknowledged her words. Matthias stepped forward. He was broad-shouldered, handsome in a brutal way, with a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. His lips curved in a smile that made Seraphina's stomach turn. Satisfaction. Ownership. Like he'd already paid for a prize and was simply collecting what belonged to him. When Matthias bit down sinking teeth into Cassandra's neck to mark her permanently as his mate, her screams shook the candles. The crowd cheered. Seraphina ran. She made it to the empty healer's quarters before she vomited, bile and terror burning her throat. That night, she stole Wolf's Bane from the locked cabinet, ground the dried flowers into powder, mixed it with bitter root and nightshade in doses just small enough to survive, and drank. The first swallow scorched. The second made her dizzy. The third had her on her knees, retching black liquid onto the floor. But when morning came, her scent had dulled. When the healer examined her 3 days later, frowning at the lack of Omega markers, Seraphina kept her face blank. "Weak wolf," the healer muttered. "Defective bloodline. Might never come into heat at all." Perfect. That was 5 years ago. 5 years of poison every morning. 5 years of watching other Omegas stand on that platform, hearing their screams, seeing their eyes go empty after the markings. 5 years of elders calling her broken. Alphas ignoring her. Pack members pitying her. She endured it all. Because broken meant invisible. Invisible meant safe. And safe meant she would never ever kneel in shackles while strangers watched her get claimed like property. The cabin Seraphina called home was barely more than 4 walls and a roof. One room, a narrow bed, a stone fireplace that smoked if the wind blew wrong. Shelves lined with dried herbs and bottles of tinctures that kept her alive and hidden. It sat in the borderlands 3 miles from the nearest pack territory, surrounded by pine forests so thick the sun barely touched the ground. No one visited, no one cared. She preferred it that way. Every morning began the same. Wake before dawn. Stoke the fire. Grind fresh wolf's bane with bitter root in the stone mortar, the familiar scrape of pestle against rock almost meditative now. The paste was black, thick. It smelled like death masquerading as medicine. She mixed it with hot water to make tea that tasted worse than it looked. The first sip always made her throat close. The bitterness coated her tongue, her teeth, the roof of her mouth. Her body rejected it on instinct, stomach clenching in protest, but she forced it down. Every single morning for 5 years. Winter arrived early that year. Snow fell in thick curtains, blanketing the forest in silence. The cabin's walls groaned under the weight of ice. Food was scarce. Firewood scarcer. But Serafina had survived worse. She was good at surviving. The winter solstice came on a night when the moon hung full and heavy, turning the snowfields into silver mirrors. Serafina had spent the day hunting checking traps, finding them empty. She returned to the cabin as darkness fell. Fingers numb, stomach empty, exhausted down to her bones. She lit the fire, warmed her hands, prepared her evening dose of poison. The mortar was half full of wolfsbane paste when the first tremor hit. It started behind her ribs, a fluttering warmth subtle as a candle flame. She paused, pestle hovering. The warmth spread, down her spine, into her limbs, pooling low in her belly in a way that made alarm bells shriek in her mind. No. The pestle slipped from her fingers, clattering against stone. Her hand was shaking, not from cold, from heat. No, 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 she whispered, pressing her palm flat against the table to steady herself. The warmth flared brighter, hotter, a molten ribbon uncoiling through her veins like something waking from a long sleep. Her wolf stirred. After 5 years of silence, after 5 years of lying dormant under layers of poison, her wolf lifted her head. Serafina felt it. The shift in her own mind. A presence that had been absent so long, she'd almost forgotten what it felt like. The wolf yawned, stretched, looked around the barren landscape of Serafina's consciousness with eyes that glowed. Mine, the wolf whispered. The word wasn't sound. It was instinct vibrating through every bone. Serafina grabbed the bowl of paste, lifted it to her lips, forced herself to swallow. It hit her stomach and did nothing. The warmth kept building. She drank more, choked it down, waited for the familiar numbness. It didn't come. Her body had adapted. 5 years of poison and her system had finally learned to metabolize it too fast to matter. The heat rolled through her in a wave that made her knees buckle. She caught the edge of the table, gasping. Her skin prickled. Her throat went dry. She could feel her pulse everywhere. Wrists, neck. Between her thighs, thick and heavy and wrong. Her scent began to leak. Faint at first. Just a whisper curling through the cabin's stale air. Then stronger. Wildflowers after rain, moonlit frost, something ancient and sweet that had been buried under bitterness for half a decade. Panic clawed up her throat. If she could smell it, any alpha within miles could too. She stumbled to the window, shoved it open. Winter wind slammed into her cold enough to steal breath. It barely touched the fever spreading beneath her skin. Through the pain and fever, one thought crystallized with cold clarity. Run. If she stayed here, someone would find her. The scent would draw them like blood drew sharks. And when they came, she would be too weak to fight. She would end up just like Cassandra, shackled, claimed, screaming while strangers called it destiny. Serafina pushed away from the window, grabbed her cloak from its peg. Her hands were clumsy, shaking, but she forced her arms through the sleeves. The door groaned as she yanked it open. Night wind hit her full force, filled with snow and the metallic sting of distant pine. The forest beyond her cabin was a blur of skeletal trees and whirling white. No path, no plan, just a way. Serafina pulled her hood up, lowered her head, and walked into the storm. Every step hurt. The heat inside her and the cold outside her waged war in her veins. Fire and ice, neither winning, both trying to tear her apart. Snow swallowed her ankles instantly. Then her calves. The drifts were deep here, untouched by anything but wind. Serafina forced herself forward. Her breath came harsh and uneven, white plumes torn away before she could see them form. Her scent streamed behind her like a banner only wolves could see. Branches clawed at her cloak, snapping under her weight. She had no idea how long she walked. Time twisted around the fever, turning into one long, stumbling step. She fell once. Her palms plunged into snow. It should have frozen her skin. Instead, steam curled faintly around her fingers. She stared at the moisture rising from her overheated hands, watched it vanish into the blizzard, and laughed. The sound was broken, slightly hysterical. She pushed herself up, kept going. The shape rose out of the storm like a monument. At first, she thought it was a hallucination, the fever playing tricks, her mind conjuring shelter where none existed. But as she staggered closer, it solidified. A structure, massive, stone and timber, built into the side of a hill, its roof heavy with snow. Not a cabin, a lodge. Thick columns framed a wide porch. Iron lanterns hung unlit at the entrance. The door was carved wood, intricate moon phases etched into the grain. Every instinct told her to turn around. A place like this belonged to someone dangerous, someone important, someone who would not appreciate a feverish omega collapsing on their floor. But her legs had nothing left. Her vision narrowed, black spots dancing at the edges. The heat roared inside her, a furnace devouring the last of her strength. Seraphina dragged herself up the steps. Her fingers were numb as she fumbled with the iron handle. To her shock, the door wasn't locked. It swung inward with a low groan, exhaling a wave of air that smelled like old wood ash and something else. Leather, pine, something wild and male that made her wolf's ears prick forward. She stepped over the threshold and nearly went to her knees. The interior was large. Shadows pooled in the corners. Heavy furniture outlined by faint light sneaking through frost-coated windows. A massive hearth dominated one wall filled with cold ashes. Thick rugs covered the stone floor. Seraphina's cloak slipped from her shoulders. She didn't have the strength to catch it. She staggered forward. 3 steps. 4. Then her body simply gave up. She crumpled beside a rug, cheek pressed to its rough weave, chest heaving. Somewhere far away, she heard wind howling. Closer, she heard her own racing heartbeat filling her ears. The last thought that flickered through her half-conscious mind was a prayer. Let this place stay empty. Let whoever owns it never come back. Darkness pulled at her, soft and heavy. She let her eyes close. 50 miles north, AlphaKing Kale reined his horse to a sudden stop. The animal snorted, breath steaming in the frigid air. Around him, the royal hunting party continued forward. 8 guards, 3 nobles, all bundled against the cold, focused on the blood trail they'd been tracking for the past hour. Deer, a big stag, wounded but still running. Kale didn't care about the deer anymore. He turned his head sharply to the south, nostrils flaring. There, faint. So faint it shouldn't have been possible to catch it at this distance through the storm over miles of frozen forest. But it hit him anyway, wildflowers after rain, moonlit frost, and underneath, barely detectable, the bitter tang of wolf's bane. His wolf exploded inside his mind, not a gentle stirring, a full-body slam against the cage of his control. Mate, find now! Kale's hands tightened on the reins until leather creaked. 5 years. 5 years he'd been searching. Every winter, when the borderlands grew quiet and the pack business slowed, he rode out. Always south, always toward that one clearing where he'd found an abandoned cup reeking of poison and the ghost of a scent that haunted his dreams. He tracked empty cabins, cold fire pits, footprints that led nowhere. Every winter, nothing. Until now. Your Majesty. One of the guards had noticed his stillness, circled back concerned. Kale didn't look at him. His entire being was focused south, toward that scent, toward the pull in his chest that felt like a rope tied around his ribs, dragging him forward. She was real. She existed. She was there. Return to the palace, Kale said. His voice came out rougher than intended, almost a growl. The guard blinked. My lord, all of you, return, now. But the hunt, Kale's eyes snapped to him. Gold gone molten, wolf bleeding through. The guard's words died. Now, Kale repeated softly. They scattered. Smart men knew when their king was beyond arguing. The moment they were gone, Kale dug his heels into his horse's flanks. The animal bolted south. Snow flew, wind tore at his cloak. The world blurred into white and gray, and the single-minded purpose burning in his chest. Find her. Protect her. Claim her. The wolf chanted it like a prayer. The man didn't fight it. For once, they were in complete agreement. The lodge appeared through the blizzard like a memory. Kale had built it years ago. A private retreat, somewhere to escape court politics and endless council meetings. Somewhere to be alone with his thoughts and the silence that had been his only companion for 2 decades. He rarely visited anymore. Too many empty rooms, too many reminders of what he didn't have. But the scent led here, straight to his door. Kale dismounted before his horse fully stopped. His boots hit snow and he was moving. Up the steps, across the porch. The door was already open. His heart stuttered. Inside the lodge was dark except for pale moonlight filtering through windows. The scent was overwhelming now. Wildflowers, frost, heat, and her. He saw her immediately. A small form collapsed on the floor near the cold hearth. Dark hair spilled across the rug, pale skin, a thin dress soaked through from snow. She wasn't moving. Terror spiked through him, sharp enough to taste. Kale crossed the space in 3 strides, dropped to his knees beside her. "Gods," he breathed. Up close, she was tiny, fragile looking. Her face was fever-flushed, lips parted as she dragged in shallow breaths. Alive. Thank the moon, alive. But burning. He could feel the heat radiating from her skin without touching. Carefully, slowly, he reached out. His fingers hovered over her shoulder. This close, the bond screamed between them. A living thing, electric, demanding. "Mine," his wolf snarled. "Touch, claim, mine." But he didn't. Not yet. Not without permission. "Serafina," he whispered. Her name. He'd known it for 5 years. Had asked every border patrol, every traveling merchant, every wandering wolf if they'd seen a young Omega alone somewhere in the southern woods. Most said no. One old healer had mentioned a girl who bought wolf's bane in quantities that should have killed her. "Serafina," he said again louder. Her eyes opened. Silver. Not gray, not blue. Pure silver like moonlight given form. They focused on him slowly. Confusion. Then fear. She tried to scramble back. Her body betrayed her. Weak. Feverish. She barely managed to push herself up on one elbow before her strength gave out. "Stay back," she rasped. "Don't touch me." Her voice was rough, raw, like she hadn't spoken to anyone in months. It still hit him like a fist to the chest. Kale raised both hands, palms empty, unthreatening. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. She stared at him, eyes too wide, breath coming too fast. "Are you hurt?" he asked. The question seemed to throw her. "What? I smelled blood earlier." A lie, but a gentle one. "Are you injured?" Her gaze dropped to her hands. There were cuts there, small ones, fresh, from something sharp. "It's nothing," she whispered. "May I look?" She blinked. "What? Your hands. May I look at them?" Silence stretched between them. Outside, wind howled. Inside, the only sound was her labored breathing and his controlled calm. "You're asking," she finally said, disbelief thick in her voice. "Always." Something flickered across her face, too fast to read. Slowly, she extended one hand. Kale took it gently. The moment their skin touched, sparks erupted. Visible. Electric. A snap of energy that lit the space between their palms. They both gasped. The bond roared to life, not quiet, not subtle. A living river of recognition flooding through his chest, his mind, his very soul. Mate, real, here. His. Kale's fingers trembled as he examined her palm. Forced himself to focus on the cuts. Fresh, from broken pottery maybe. He pulled a clean cloth from his pocket, wrapped it carefully around her hand. "You're burning up," he said. "When did the heat start?" She pulled her hand back, clutched it to her chest. How do you know my name?" He met her silver eyes. "I've known it for 5 years." Her breath caught. "I found a cup," he continued softly, "in a clearing near the southern border. It reeked of wolf's bane, and underneath, just a trace, a scent I'd never encountered before." He paused. "Moonlight," he said, "under poison." Tears welled in her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. "I searched every winter," Kale said. "Every abandoned cabin, every cold fire pit. I thought you were a dream, a trick my wolf invented to fill the silence." His throat tightened. "But you're real." A single tear escaped, tracked down her fever-flushed cheek. "I'm nobody," she whispered. "You're not nobody. I'm broken, defective." The elders said they were wrong. The words came out harder than he intended. Her eyes widened. Kale forced himself to soften, gentle his tone. "You're not broken, Serafina. You're terrified. There's a difference." She stared at him, like he'd spoken a language she didn't understand. "You're burning alive on my floor," he said. "Will you let me help you?" Silence. Then barely audible. "Why would you?" "Because you're my mate, and because no one should suffer alone." More tears fell. She didn't try to stop them this time. Kale stood slowly, crossed to the hearth, began building a fire with practiced efficiency. Behind him, he heard her ragged breathing, heard her try to sit up and fail. The kindling caught. Flames grew. Heat began to fill the cold room. He returned to her side. May I lift you, he asked. She looked up at him, face pale except for the fever flush, eyes glassy. Where the bed, you need to rest. I can walk. I'm sure you can, but you don't have to. He waited, giving her the choice, giving her the power. After a long moment, she nodded. Kale slid one arm behind her back, the other beneath her knees, lifted her as carefully as he would hold something precious, unbreakable. She was too light. How long had she been starving herself along with poisoning? Her head dropped against his shoulder, a gesture of exhausted trust that made his wolf purr. He carried her to the wide bed in the corner, laid her down on furs and blankets that smelled faintly of cedar. She curled onto her side immediately, shivering despite the fever. Kale pulled a heavy blanket over her, tucked it around her shoulders. Then he went to fetch water. When he returned with a basin and cloth, her eyes were closed, but her breathing told him she wasn't asleep. I'm going to cool the fever, he said quietly. Is that all right? A pause, then yes. He dipped the cloth in cold water, wrung it out, pressed it gently to her forehead. She sighed, a small sound, relief. He worked in silence, cooling her temples, her neck, her wrists where the pulse beat too fast, never straying below her collarbone, never taking liberties, just tending. After a while, she spoke. Why are you being kind to me? His hand stilled. Because you deserve kindness. You don't know me. I know enough. You know nothing. Her voice broke. I'm poisoned, ruined. I did this to myself because I'd rather die alone than become someone's property. Kale set the cloth down, sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to crowd her. I know what you saw, he said quietly. Her eyes opened, silver and shattered. I know about the ceremonies, he continued. I didn't. For years, I didn't know what my court was doing in my name. The councils, the alliances built on forced bonds. His jaw clenched. When I found out, I burned the practice to ashes, exiled the elders who perpetuated it, rewrote the laws. He met her gaze. But the damage was done. Girls like you had already learned to fear, already learned that survival meant poison. Serafina's breath shuddered. I can't change the past, Kale said, but I swear to you on my crown and my life, I will never force you. I will never take what you don't give freely. Tears streamed down her face now. I don't understand, she whispered. You're an alpha. You're a king. You could just, I could. He didn't flinch from the truth. And that's exactly why I won't. Power without consent is tyranny. I won't become the monster you fear. Something in her expression cracked. The walls she'd built, the armor she wore, it fractured. And through the cracks he saw her, the girl who'd drunk poison for 5 years rather than submit. The woman who'd run into a blizzard to stay free. The Omega who'd survived alone because no one offered safety without a price. What do you want from me? She asked. Raw, honest. Nothing you're not ready to give. And when the heat passes, then we talk. You decide, stay or go. It's your choice. She stared at him like he was speaking impossible things. Maybe he was, but he meant every word. The fire crackled, warmth spread through the lodge. Outside, the blizzard raged. Inside, something fragile and new began to grow. Trust. Serafina's eyes drifted closed. This time she slept. Kale stayed beside her, refreshing the cloth when the fever spiked, monitoring her breathing, watching color slowly return to her too pale face. Hours passed. Dawn came gray and cold. The blizzard finally broke, and when Serafina woke, Kale was still there, waiting. The morning light was weak, gray. It filtered through the lodge windows like something apologetic. Serafina woke to warmth, not fever this time. Real warmth, blankets piled high, a fire crackling in the hearth. And beside the bed, sitting in a chair he'd pulled close sometime during the night, Kale. He was awake, watching her with an intensity that should have frightened her. It didn't. The heat broke, he said quietly. She nodded, sat up slowly. Her body ached. But the burning was gone, the desperation, the awful clawing need. All that remained was exhaustion and confusion. You stayed, she said. Did you think I'd leave? Honestly, yes, but he was real, solid, present. I need to explain something, Kale said. Before we leave, before you agree to come with me, you need to understand what you're walking into. Serafina pulled the blanket tighter around herself. The bond, he continued, between us, it's real. The moon chose this. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. I won't mark you, he said. Not until you ask, not until you're ready. Maybe never if that's what you decide. But the pull will always be there, and my court will sense it. They'll know, not everything, but they'll see how I look at you, how I protect you. They'll draw conclusions. Serafina's stomach tightened. I can't promise the court will be kind, he continued. Some will be curious, some jealous, some will try to use you to get to me, but I can promise you'll be safe. No one will touch you. No one will force you. You have my word. She studied his face, the earnestness there, an AlphaKing asking permission, explaining instead of commanding. If I come with you, she said slowly, I'm not agreeing to the bond, not yet. I know. I need time. You have it. And if I decide to leave, then I'll help you go wherever you want, set you up with gold land protection, whatever you need to build a life. The offer was too generous. She waited for the catch. There wasn't one. Okay, she whispered. Relief flooded his features. Okay, he repeated. They left at midday. Kale wrapped her in his warmest cloak, fed her bread and dried meat from his supplies, made sure she could sit the horse before they started. The ride to the palace took most of the day. Kale had brought an extra horse, gentle, well-trained. Serafina was grateful for the distance between them. She needed space to think. The landscape changed as they traveled north. The wild borderlands gave way to cultivated fields buried under snow. Farmhouses appeared, small villages. People stared as they passed. At Kale, mostly. He was unmistakable in his dark cloak and silver circlet, the AlphaKing. But some eyes found her too. She kept her hood up, head down. By the time the palace came into view, the sun was setting. It rose against the sky like something carved from a mountain. White stone, tall spires, windows that caught the dying light and turned it into fire. Beautiful, intimidating. The gates opened at their approach. Guards bowed. Servants rushed forward. Kale dismounted first, came to her side, offered his hand. She took it. His fingers were warm, steady. He didn't let go as they walked through the gates. The main courtyard was massive. Everywhere people moved with purpose. They all stopped when they saw Kale, bowed. Then their eyes found Serafina. The whispers started immediately. Who is she? Where did he find her? Serafina's fingers tightened on Kyle's hand. He squeezed back, reassuring. Ignore them, he murmured. They climbed wide steps, passed through doors carved with wolves and moons. Kale, a voice, young, female, delighted. A girl appeared from a side corridor, 19, maybe 20. Dark hair pulled into a warrior's braid, leather training gear, a sword strapped to her hip. She skidded to a stop when she saw Serafina. Oh, she said, then eyes widening. Oh. Kale smiled, actually smiled. Nissa, meet Serafina. She'll be staying with us. Nissa's gaze darted between them. Understanding dawned. Her entire face lit up. Finally, she breathed. Then she was moving, stopping just short of Serafina's personal space. I'm Nissa, she said, Kale's sister, and I am so glad you're here. The warmth in her voice was genuine. Hello, Serafina managed. The eastern wing sounds perfect for her room, Kale said. Can you show Serafina there while I handle court business? Absolutely. He turned to Serafina. I'll come find you in an hour. We'll have dinner, just us. She nodded. His hand lingered on hers before he let go. Then he was striding away and Serafina was alone with Nissa, who was practically vibrating with excitement. Come on, she said. Let me show you your room. The eastern wing was luxury Serafina couldn't comprehend. Large windows, a bed twice the size of her cabin, wardrobes, a private bathing room. It's too much, she whispered. Nissa waved dismissively. It's barely adequate by palace standards. Before Serafina could respond, there was a knock at the door. Nissa opened it. A woman stood in the hallway, tall, elegant, dark hair and elaborate braids, a gown that cost more than everything Serafina had ever owned, emeralds at her throat, beautiful in a way that felt weaponized. Lady Vivien, Nissa said. Her voice had gone flat. Princess. Vivien's smile was all teeth. I heard we have a guest. Her eyes found Serafina. The temperature dropped. How unexpected, Vivien said. The king brings home a stray. Nissa bristled. She's not... I'm sure she's lovely, Vivien continued smoothly, in a rustic sort of way. The borderlands, I'm told. Serafina stood, met Vivien's gaze. Yes, she said, the borderlands. How quaint. Vivien's smile sharpened. And you're staying in the eastern wing. Quite an honor for someone of your background. The insult was clear, even wrapped in courtesy. Lady Vivien, Nissa said, voice hard. Was there something you needed? Just welcoming our new arrival. She understands. Kale's voice cut through like a blade. All three women turned. He stood in the doorway. His expression was controlled. Calm, but his eyes blazed. Serafina is under my personal protection, he said quietly. She will be treated with respect. Is that clear, Lady Vivien? Vivien's smile didn't waver. Of course, my king. I'm sure. Finally, Vivien curtsied. I'll leave you to your evening. She swept from the room. When she was gone, Nissa let out a breath. I hate her, she muttered. Nissa, Kale warned him. Serafina's stomach dropped. She wanted to be queen, didn't she? Kale's jaw tightened. Political arrangement. My father wanted an alliance. Vivien was the offered bride. You refused when I took the throne, 10 years ago. She's still here. Her family has influence with the council. Translation, too powerful to exile. Serafina's unease deepened. Dinner was quiet, just the three of them. Servants brought food, left, returned with more. Serafina picked at vegetables and bread. Her mind was elsewhere. On Vivien's cold eyes, on the whispers, on being a rabbit in a den of wolves. Tomorrow, Kale said, I want you to see the royal healer. She froze. White ho. 5 years of wolf's bane. I need to know if there's lasting damage. Nissa's fork clattered. You poisoned yourself. Serafina didn't answer. It's for your health, Kale said gently. Please. She wanted to refuse, but the earnestness in his eyes stopped her. Fine, she whispered. The next morning, the healer's chambers smelled of sage and antiseptic. Oren was old, white-haired, with eyes that had seen too much. He examined Serafina efficiently, checked her pulse, her breathing, asked questions about dosage that made her squirm. Remarkable you're alive, he said, not comforting. I need a blood sample, he continued. Standard procedure, checking for diseases, parasites, magical interference. He produced a small silver dagger, runes etched into the blade. Your hand, please. Serafina extended her palm. The cut was quick. A single drop welled up. Oren caught it in a shallow silver dish, then whispered something. The blood began to glow, faint at first, then brighter. Silver light erupted, flooding the room. Gold threaded through it, molten, alive. The light grew until Serafina had to shield her eyes. Oren stumbled back. Impossible, he breathed. The glow faded, but Oren's face was pale. What was that? Serafina demanded. The healer's hands shook. Moonfire, he said. You're moonfire born. Silence. I don't understand. Oren turned to Kale. Your Majesty, this changes everything. Explain, Kale said. His voice had gone hard. The healer steadied himself. Moonfire is a bloodline, he said. Ancient, rare. Only 3 recorded in the last 200 years. Omegas born under specific celestial alignments. Their bonds with alphas don't just connect. They amplify. He gestured to Serafina. An alpha mated to Moonfire becomes stronger, faster. Their power multiplies. Moonfire queens built dynasties. Their children were legends. Serafina's pulse roared. That's why she survived the wolf's bane, Oren continued. Normal Omegas would have died in weeks. Moonfire bloodlines have inherent resilience. He approached cautiously, examined her shoulder. His fingers traced something. She looked down. A scar. Circular. Intricate patterns. She'd always assumed it was a birthmark. This is a seal, Oren said quietly. Dark magic. Placed deliberately to suppress her bloodline. Someone knew what she was. Feared it. Bound her power before it could manifest. Kale's presence behind her was overwhelming. Who would do that? He asked. Voice deadly soft. I don't know, but breaking it will be dangerous. The magic has had 22 years to integrate. Removing it improperly could kill her. Serafina felt dizzy. If word of this spreads, Oren continued, she becomes the most valuable prize in every kingdom. Alphas will hunt her, not for mate bonds, for power. The room tilted. Kale's hand steadied her, warm on her shoulder. This stays between us, he said. You speak of this to no one, or you lose everything. Am I understood? Oren bowed. Completely, Your Majesty. Can you help her? Breaking the seal will require time, research. I'll need to consult the old libraries. Do it, quietly. Of course. Kale guided Serafina from the chamber. She moved on autopilot. Moonfire. Amplification. Valuable. The words circled like vultures. They were halfway to her room when she stopped. I need air. Serafina, please. He studied her face, nodded. The gardens. The palace gardens were beautiful even in winter. Frozen fountains, snow-draped hedges, moonlight turning everything silver. They walked in silence. Finally, she spoke. This is why you wanted me. The power. Kale stopped. Turned. No. Moonfire amplifies. I didn't know, he interrupted. I've been searching for you for 5 years, long before tonight. I wanted you because my wolf recognized yours, because your scent haunted me. He stepped closer. The moonfire changes nothing. You're not a resource, you're a person. My mate, if you choose. She wanted to believe him, but trust was hard. What if I'm too broken? You're not broken. You don't know what I've survived. Then tell me. And she did. Standing in that frozen garden, she told him everything. The ceremonies, Cassandra's screams, the 5 years of poison, the isolation, the certainty that being owned would destroy her. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, tears freezing on her cheeks, he was quiet. Then thank you. She blinked. For what? For surviving, for being strong enough to choose poison over submission, for trusting me with this. His hand cupped her face gently. I swear on my crown you will never be property. Not to me, not to anyone. The sincerity shattered something in her chest. She leaned into his touch. I don't know how to trust this. That's okay. We have time. They stood close, sharing breath, not quite touching beyond his hand on her cheek. Then Kale's gaze dropped to her lips. Serafina's pulse jumped. If I kissed you now, he said softly, would you pull away? I don't know. Then I won't risk it. He stepped back. The loss made her ache. When I kiss you, Serafina, it won't be because the moon is pretty. It will be because you asked, because you're ready. He smiled, sad and patient. I can wait. Before she could respond, running footsteps echoed. A guard appeared, breathless. Your Majesty, urgent, Frostfang emissary at the gates. Kale's expression shuddered. Take Serafina to her room, he ordered. Post guards. No one enters without my permission. Kale, please, he said, trust me this far. She nodded. He was gone before she could say more. The throne room was built for intimidation. Vaulted ceilings, columns thick as trees. The throne carved from black stone inlaid with silver. Kale sat there now, crown on his head, every inch the AlphaKing. Before him the Frostfang emissary knelt, a thin man, scarred, eyes darting nervously. Speak, Kale commanded. The man produced a sealed letter. A guard brought it to Kale. The seal was a wolf's head, snarling, black wax. Kale broke it, read. His jaw clenched tighter with each line. When he finished, he set it down carefully. Too carefully. Your Alpha has interesting demands, he said quietly. The emissary swallowed. Alpha Malachar sends his respects. He merely requests the return of property that belongs to Frostfang territory. Property. The Omega. She was born in our lands. By pack law, she falls under our jurisdiction. She's not in your jurisdiction. She's in mine. Alpha Malachar is prepared to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. Kale's voice didn't rise. The threat was clear. Tell your Alpha this, he continued. Serafina is under my personal protection. She is a free citizen. If he wants to contest that, he can come himself. But he'll find me less welcoming. The emissary paled. He'll take your refusal as war. Then let him. Gasps rippled through the room. Council members shifted, whispered. Kale stood. You have until dawn to leave. Tell Malachar if he wants a fight, I'll give him one. The emissary fled. The council erupted. Voices overlapping, arguing. Lord Aldrich stepped forward. Your Majesty, one Omega is not worth a war. That Omega, Kale said coldly, is my mate. Touch her and you'll wish Frostfang got to you first. Silence. Then Vivien's voice smooth as poison. Perhaps a compromise, returned the girl. Surely one life isn't worth thousands that will die. Kale's eyes found her. Your concern is noted, Lady Vivien. Your opinion on my mate is not. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes, calculation. The meeting dissolved. Kale let them argue. His mind was elsewhere, on Serafina, alone, unaware her past had arrived to claim her. He would burn the world before letting that happen. In the shadows outside, Vivien stood very still. She'd heard everything. Moonfire. The words sang through her mind like a blade. So that was why. The borderlands stray wasn't just a mate bond. She was power incarnate. Vivien's fingers curled into her skirts. She'd been groomed since childhood for the throne. Taught politics, diplomacy, strategy. And Kale had refused her. For 10 years she'd stayed. waiting, hoping. And now this, a poisoned omega, a sealed moonfire. The girl who would give Kale everything Vivien couldn't. Unacceptable. Vivien turned, walked to her chambers, locked the door, retrieved a small mirror from her vanity, whispered a word. The glass shimmered. A face appeared, scarred, brutal, eyes like ice. Alpha Malachar. Lady Vivien, I wasn't expecting contact. Plans change, I have information. Oh, the Omega. She's not just any Omega. She smiled, cold. She's Moonfire, sealed since birth. If you claim her, you'll become the most powerful Alpha in the realm. Malachar's eyes gleamed. And you're telling me because when you attack, the chaos will show Kale who his real allies are, who deserves to stand at his side. And you want that position. I've earned it, Malachar laughed. Dark. Very well, you provide information. I provide distraction. And when it's over, you can have your king. I'll have the moonfire. Vivien's reflection was serene. There's a garden gala in 3 days. Kale is hosting to show strength. Perfect. We'll strike then. The connection severed. Vivien set the mirror down, poured wine, told herself this was for the kingdom, told herself Kale would thank her, told herself the guilt was just indigestion, and almost believed it. 3 days passed in preparation. The palace transformed. Servants hung lanterns, arranged tables, polished fountains. A show of strength, Kale called it. Seraphina thought it was tempting fate, but she didn't argue. Nissa helped her dress, a gown of midnight blue that made her silver eyes luminous. You look like moonlight, Nissa said. Seraphina's reflection was a stranger. I don't belong here. You belong where you choose. The gardens glittered under a full moon. Hundreds of guests, nobles in furs, visiting alphas, council members. Music drifted, delicate, graceful, everything perfect, too perfect. Seraphina felt it, the wrongness beneath the beauty. Kale stood at her side, one hand at her back, protective. Breathe, he murmured. Across the garden, Vivien held court. Emerald silk, sharp smile. She caught Seraphina's gaze, lifted her wine and mock toast. Seraphina looked away. How much longer, she asked. An hour. Then I'll steal you. The first scream cut through the music, sharp, terrified. The quartet stopped. Silence crashed. Then chaos. Wolves poured over the walls, already shifted, massive, coordinated. Frostfang, eyes gleaming ice blue. Unnatural, guests scattered, screaming. Guards drew weapons. But the attackers were faster, blood sprayed. More screams. Kale's hand tightened on her waist. Nissa, he roared. His sister appeared, sword drawn. Get Seraphina to the inner halls. Don't stop. Kale, now. He was shifting, bones cracking, fur erupting. In seconds, a massive black wolf stood there, power rolling off him. He launched at the nearest enemy. Thunder. Nissa grabbed Seraphina's hand. Come on! They ran, through screaming guests, past overturned tables, around bodies. Seraphina's gown tangled. She hitched it up, kept running, behind battle sounds, snarls, howls, bone crunching, almost to the doors when wolves cut them off. 4. Ice blue eyes locked on Seraphina. One shifted, fur receding, scarred alpha, cruel mouth. The moonfire Omega, our master will be pleased. Nissa moved in front, sword raised. Touch her and die. He laughed. The others circled. Nissa's blade flashed. Caught one wolf, but the others lunged. She fought. Fast, precise, but 1 against 3. One got past. Slammed her. She went down, sword flying. The wolf's jaws closed on her shoulder. Nissa screamed. No! Seraphina shouted. She ran, toward, grabbed a fallen candelabra, swung at the wolf's head. Metal connected. The wolf yelped, released Nissa, turned on Seraphina. She stumbled, tripped, hit ground. The wolf loomed, teeth red with Nissa's blood. This is it. Then a roar shook the garden. Kale. He appeared like an avalanche, fur matted with blood, eyes blazing. He hit the wolf with enough force to snap bone. The wolf flew, crashed, didn't rise. But Kale wasn't stopping. He tore into the others, savage. One tried to run. Kale caught it, tore its throat, shook the body before dropping it. Seraphina had seen him fight. This was different. Feral. He spun toward the scarred alpha. The man's eyes widened. He shifted, tried to flee. Kale was faster, pinned him, jaws at his throat. Kale, Seraphina called. He didn't respond. Across the garden, another howl, deeper. Seraphina's head snapped. A wolf larger than the others, gray fur, scarred muzzle, winter ice eyes, Malachar. He walked straight toward Kale, toward Seraphina. Finally, a voice behind her. Seraphina turned. Vivien stood there, pale, shaking, but eyes on Malachar. You led them here, Seraphina breathed. Vivien flinched. I had to. I was supposed to be queen. And then you betrayed everyone. I'm saving the kingdom, you're dangerous. Moonfire shouldn't exist. Malachar reached them, shifted mid-stride. A tall, brutal man, scars like badges. The moonfire, at last. He reached for Seraphina. Kale's roar split the night. He abandoned the Alpha, charged. But Malachar was ready, caught Kale mid-leap. They crashed, evenly matched. They rolled, bit, clawed, blood-splattered snow. And while they fought, other wolves closed on Nissa. 4, circling, she was bleeding, weaponless. Seraphina saw it slow, wolves lunging. Nissa's face, brave, resigned, Kale pinned under Malachar, jaws at his throat. Something inside Seraphina shattered. The seal on her shoulder exploded with light. The shift pain like a meteor. Seraphina's scream tore out. Raw, inhuman, light erupted, silver shot with gold. The seal burned to ash. Her wolf silent for 22 years broke free. Agony, bones cracked, reformed, lengthened, spine arched, vertebrae popping, skin stretched, fur exploded, silver fur, tipped gold at ears, paws, tail, dawn over snow. Her gown shredded, body expanded, grew, massive, larger than any omega, nearly as large as Kale. Vision sharpened, colors brighter, sounds clearer. She smelled everything. Blood, fear, Malachar's fury, and something else. Pine, leather. Kale, her mate, pinned, struggling. The wolf threw back her head and howled, not music, a declaration of war. Every wolf froze. Friend and foe, heads turned, eyes widened. Seraphina's wolf stood, silver coat glowing, eyes blazing white gold, constellation pattern on her flank. Beautiful, terrifying, ancient, impossible, Malachar breathed. She didn't give him time. She moved, faster than anything her size should. The 4 wolves around Nyssa didn't see her. She hit the first like a ram, sent it flying. The second lunged. She caught it midair, jaws on its shoulder, bone crunched, threw it aside. The third and fourth tried to flank. She spun, graceful, claws raked one's face. It howled, retreated. The other she pinned, jaws at throat. Warning, it submitted. Belly up, she released it, let it run. Then turned to Malachar. He'd released Kale, was staring with awe and hunger. Moonfire awakened. Do you know what you're worth? She snarled. Kale climbed up, bleeding, but alive. He moved beside her, black wolf in silver. The bond flared, visible, light connecting chest to chest, power surged. Seraphina felt it, amplification. Kale's strength doubled, tripled, wounds closing, faster than natural. Their minds touched, not words, images, emotions, his awe, her fury. Shared purpose. Together they faced Malachar. He shifted, back to wolf, desperate. He lunged. They met him as one. Kale high, Seraphina low, movements synchronized, bond guiding. Kale's jaws on Malachar's shoulder, Seraphina's claws on his flank. Like water, like they'd fought together for years. Malachar was skilled, brutal, but alone. They were bonded. Minutes. Malachar hit ground. Hard. Kale stood over him, jaws at throat. One bite. Seraphina felt the urge through the bond. Finish it. Eliminate threat. But also something else. Her choice. She shifted. Pain less this time. Body remembering. Fur receded. Bones shortened. She knelt naked in snow. Steam rising. Someone threw a cloak. Nissa, wounded but alive. Kale, Seraphina said. His wolf's head turned, eyes still feral. Don't kill him. A growl. Please, I'm asking. Gold flickered, awareness returning. I was nothing, she continued. Broken, poisoned. Refused, that's what they called me. She stood, walked toward them. And I survived. I chose survival over vengeance. I chose to keep living. She knelt beside Malachar's bleeding form. Met his ice blue eyes. You wanted to own me, to use me for power, but I'm giving you something else. She gestured to Kale. He stepped back, released Malachar's throat. Your life, Seraphina said, not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to become what I feared. I refuse to let fear make me cruel. Malachar stared. Shock. Confusion. Leave. Take your wolves. Go. And if you ever come back, Kale won't spare you. Malachar shifted. Human. Bleeding. Broken. Why? He rasped. Because someone has to break the cycle. He staggered up, limped away. His wolves followed. Silence. Then palace guards began to cheer. Nissa dragged Vivien forward, pale, shaking. Kale shifted back. Someone brought clothes. He dressed without taking eyes off Vivien. You called them here, he said, quiet, deadly. I thought I was protecting you. You betrayed us. I was supposed to be queen. The words burst out. I trained my whole life, and you refused me. For what? For her, she pointed at Seraphina. A poisoned stray, a nobody, just because she has moonfire blood. No, Kale interrupted. Because she's brave, because she's kind, because she survived hell and came out stronger. He stepped closer. You had every advantage, and you chose ambition over honor, over lives. I'm sorry, Vivien whispered. Sorry doesn't bring back the dead. He looked at guards. Exile. Strip her of title and lands. She leaves at dawn. If she returns, it's execution. Vivien's face crumpled. Kale, please. You're lucky I'm more merciful than you deserve. Get her out. Guards took her arms. She didn't fight, just looked back once. At Seraphina. Not with hatred, with something that might have been regret. Then she was gone. Coronation. 3 days later, the throne room was full. Not just palace residents. Wolves from every allied pack. Nobles from distant territories. Witnesses by hundreds. Seraphina stood at the throne steps. White gown, simple but elegant. Silver embroidery along the hem, matching her wolf's constellation. Hair down, loose. Silver eyes bright. She looked like moonlight, given human form. Kale stood on the dais, crown on his head. Regal, powerful, but eyes only for her. The high priestess, ancient and serene, raised her hands. Seraphina of the borderlands, the moon has marked you. Moonfire awakened, power incarnate. Seraphina's heart raced. Do you accept this crown not as a chain, but as a promise to lead, to protect, to serve? She thought of the girl who'd drunk poison, the Omega who'd run into blizzards, the wolf who'd finally found her voice. I do, she said. Her voice carried, strong, certain. Kale descended, carrying a crown, silver, delicate, set with moonstones. He stopped before her. I've waited my whole life for you, he said. Quiet enough only she heard. Not for power, just for you. He placed the crown on her head. Then to everyone's shock, he knelt. The AlphaKing, on his knees before his Omega. The hall went silent. Long live the Moonfire Queen, Kale said. My equal, my better half. The crowd erupted, not whispers, roars, wolves howling, hands pounding. Seraphina's eyes burned. Kale stood, offered his hand, she took it. Together they turned to the assembly. One more thing, Kale said. He looked at her, question in his eyes. May I saw? Understanding dawned, the public marking, the final seal. She could refuse. Walk away, keep freedom, or choose. Yes, she whispered. His smile was incandescent. He pulled her close, right there, before gods and pack and kingdom. His lips found her neck, where her pulse beat. His teeth grazed, gentle. A question. She tilted her head, offering. He bit down, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to mark, to claim, to make permanent what the moon started. The bond snapped fully into place. Silver light exploded from where they touched, flooding the throne room. Blinding. When it faded, a mark gleamed on her skin. Moon phases, intricate, beautiful. His mark, her choice. Seraphina turned to the crowd. Her voice rang clear. They called me broken, defective, refuse. Silence. They were wrong. I was never broken. I was surviving. She found faces in the crowd, young Omegas, watching with wide eyes. The moon doesn't make mistakes. Every scar, every poisoned morning, every moment I thought I wouldn't survive, it all led here. Her hand found Kale's. I am Moonfire. I am your queen. And I swear on my crown and my wolf, no Omega will ever be forced again. No one will be property. No one will kneel unless they choose it. The hall exploded, cheering, howling, the beginning of something new. Morning light filtered soft through silk curtains. Seraphina woke slowly, warm, safe. Kale's arm draped over her waist, his chest pressed to her back, breathing deep and even in sleep. She placed her hand over his, guided it lower, to the small swell of her belly, barely showing. But there, new life, growing. Kale stirred, nuzzled into her hair. Morning, he rumbled. Morning. His hand splayed over her stomach, protective even half asleep. How are you feeling? Happy, she said, and meant it. 6 months ago she'd been alone, poisoned, convinced she was broken. Now she was queen, mate, partner, soon-to-be mother. The kingdom had changed under their rule. Omega protection laws passed, forced bonding outlawed, healers trained in trauma care. Young wolves had hope. Serafina made sure of it. We have council in an hour, Kale murmured against her neck. I know. We could skip it, she laughed. We can't keep skipping council. Watch me. But he was already sitting up, stretching. She watched him move. This man who'd waited 5 years, who'd asked permission, who'd knelt before her. I love you, she said. He stilled, turned, waited again. I love you. His smile could have lit the kingdom. He kissed her, soft, reverent. I love you too, my queen, my moon, my everything. Later they stood on the balcony, overlooking the kingdom spread below, prosperous, peaceful. Any regrets? Kale asked. Serafina thought of poison, of fear, of 5 years hiding. Then she thought of this. Crown on her head, life in her belly, mate at her side. Only that I didn't find you sooner. He pulled her close. Below palace gardens bloomed even in late autumn. Wolves trained in the yards. Children played. In the distance, Nissa led a patrol, lightning crackling at her fingertips when she got excited. Stormborn powers awakening. A story for another time. The moon knew, Kale said, when we were ready, when we'd survived enough to appreciate this. Serafina leaned into him. Above clouds parted, revealing the waning moon, pale against blue sky. She'd spent years hiding from destiny. Turns out destiny had just been waiting for her to stop running, waiting for her to choose. And she'd chosen this. Love, freedom, power on her own terms. She'd chosen to stop being prey and become the wolf who howled at the moon, not in fear, in triumph.